Hello there, it's your shopkeeper Chris Baker here at Bodkins Curiosity Shop, here for another random curiosity where we take a brief subject and talk about it again briefly, just to talk about what's going on out there. Not a full review of a movie, but in this case, it's another cut of a movie we reviewed earlier this year. Of course, we're talking about M3GAN, which was released in January of this year, so not just over a month ago. We're pushing 2 months now since M3GAN was released in theaters, and it was one of those movies where my wife was interested enough, and she's not a huge horror fan, but she's kind of dipping her toes a little further into the water to help support me in what I do, and it's a chance for us to get to go see a movie. So she actually went to see M3GAN with me, and we really enjoyed it for a PG-13 horror film. And I've always been of the mindset that not every horror film has to be rated R. You have some really good PG-13 horror films out there. Not every horror film has to be full of blood and guts to be horror. I mean, there's a lot of horror in suspense and tension building and creepiness and atmosphere that you don't need all the F-bombs and you don't need all the blood and guts to be a good horror film. And I think this is one of those examples where I thought this was a really good horror film that was PG-13, didn't have a ton of blood and guts, didn't have a ton of F-bombs, but really captured a lot of the creepy atmosphere and tension, and, dolls coming to life are creepy inherently. So really liked M3GAN. If you want to check it out, you can check out, we did a full review, or maybe not even so much a review, but we just talked about the movie earlier this year, back in January when it came out. But they've done a new cut of this movie, and they've been talking about this for a while. M3GAN Unrated. It was released to the Peacock network here the past week or two, and I finally broke down and got Peacock again because I wanted to watch this. I wanted to watch Sick, which we talked about on Monday's show, and I was really excited about this because as much as I liked M3GAN as a PG-13, I thought it was fine, I was really interested to see what they held back on, because I was like, this movie seemed like it had a gorier cut, and that the studio made the filmmakers pull back because this was released in January, which is kind of a wasteland for horror and science fiction movies that the studios just don't have a lot of faith in, and they were trying to make it appeal to a broader audience, make those teenagers be able to come in and see it without a parent, and make it a date night movie and make it a more accessible to a younger audience, to try and build a bigger audience for them to at least make their money back. And of course, this movie made its money back in spades, I think. Budget was $12 million, made about over $172 million. So it worked. But I thought, I'm sure they probably pulled back on some of the scenes to allow it to have a PG-13 rating and a bigger audience. So I was excited to see where they were going to go with this, with an unrated version. Wow, unrated. That really tells me the gloves are off. This is no holds barred. We're going to see everything that was left on the cutting room floor. And I have to say, for the most part, I'm not going to go into this movie again. We're going to talk about the scenes that we got to see bloodier cuts of real quick, very brief, but I was a little underwhelmed by this. For calling it unrated, it didn't feel unrated. It felt like what this movie would have been if it got an R rating. There were a lot more F-bombs. M3GAN gets a good F-bomb there at the end when she has that showdown with Gemma. Most of the F-bombs come from the David character, played wonderfully by Ronnie Chang. We get a little F-bombs from him because he's got some anger issues. But as far as the blood and guts, it wasn't as bloody and it wasn't as gory as I thought an unrated version of this movie would be. The scene with the character Brandon, played by Jack Cassidy, where he's with M3GAN in the woods and she rips off his ear. It really cuts away quick when it happens in the theatrical cut. In this, we get to see a little more of the ripping of the ear off, up close and personal. There's a bit of a CG blood squirt, which I was like, CG blood. I've made no bones about my feelings on CG blood. I hate it. I wish they would have gone practical with that, or not even have a blood squirt. Just that ripping off of the ear was gory enough. I thought they might go a little gory when he gets hit by the car. If anything, you don't have to necessarily show him getting hit and splatting against the grill of the truck, but they could have had a blood smear on the road or something. They didn't do anything with that, which I can understand. It's a kid getting hit by a truck. Even if the kid's a little shit like the Brandon character, you don't need to see that. I thought they might do something a little gross with Dewey the dog when that dog met its untimely end, but there again, animals and kids, that's kind of a taboo, transgressive subject to broach in movies. The next door neighbor, Celia, played by Lori Dungy, was the one I was really looking forward to seeing an extended version of that where Megan's using the pressure washer to take care of her. And the scene plays out pretty much the same. There's a scene where she shoots her hand with a nail gun to kind of hold her in place. I don't remember that being in the theatrical release, but I could just be misremembering that. But at the very least, we get the scene where the pressure washer jet spray hits Celia's face, and we start to see a little bit of the skin peel away and a little bit of the blood and gore underneath, which they still cut away pretty quick. And I think I understand why, because they did it CG. It wasn't a practical effect at all. And it was obviously CG when you got this unrated cut. And I think if you would have lingered on it anymore, and if you would have had any more of the face peel off, it would have been glaringly CG. So I understand why they pulled back. There again, it's a situation where, why didn't you do it with practical effects? Because you do it with practical effects, and it's going to look better than CG is ever going to look. You'll be able to linger on it longer than you're ever going to be able to linger on CG. So I was a little disappointed that scene didn't play out more gruesome like it could have in an unrated version. The other scene that we got a little more blood and guts was when Megan is chasing David down the hall with that blade part of a paper cutter, and David gets to the elevator, and his assistant Kurt is there, and David opens keeps the elevator doors from closing. And before we get him hit in the back, stabbed in the back with this bit of the paper cutter from Megan, but in this we get Megan shoving it through and it bursting out the front of his chest and spraying Kurt with blood. And then when she's setting it up to look like a murder-suicide, she slits Kurt's throat with this blade, and you get a little more of a CG blood squirt out of the neck, which there again, CG blood, it could have been unpractical, but it worked, I guess. But other than these handful of scenes, and the handful of F-bombs that you get, that's the only thing that made this, and I don't even think it made this unrated. An unrated version to me seems, or says to me that it is going to be going beyond what you would have got in a rated R version. And this really was the rated R version of Megan. You had a bunch of F-bombs, and you had a little bit more blood. Not too terribly gory, but a little more gory than you got in the PG-13 version. It certainly wasn't R-rated, which is a shame because I really like this movie as is. I really wanted to see a no-holds-barred unrated version of this, but this just wasn't it. So if you're looking to get Peacock just to see Megan unrated, wait till it comes out somewhere where you can rent it. I mean, I suppose for $4.99 a month for Peacock, and I'm not sitting here trying to pimp Peacock for anybody, but $4.99 a month, you can get it for a month and watch this, and there's a bunch of other shit you can watch. Sick is the movie we talked about on Monday is a decent watch. You'll get your money's worth if you get this for a month, but as far as an unrated version goes, I just don't know if it's worth your time. If you want to watch the movie again, which I did want to watch Megan again, so to see it with this slightly gorier version was a fun rewatch, but if you're getting this or if you're looking to watch this just for an unrated version to see all the blood and guts and gore and goo and mayhem, you're not going to get what you're looking for. I think this is misrepresented as an unrated version. This is the rated R version, nothing more. Which, like I said, love this movie. Love what Gerard Johnston and Kayla Cooper did as far as the directing and the screenplay. The story by Kayla Cooper and James Wan, fantastic. Just as an unrated version, this was just kind of lackluster. Like I said, this was the rated R version. So there you have it. That's my take on the unrated version of M3GAN. You can stream it on Peacock now if you want. I want to thank everyone for listening to my thoughts on M3GAN Unrated. You can check out more of what's going on with Bodkins Curiosity Shop on our Facebook page and on Instagram. And no matter where you listen to this podcast, please subscribe to it, follow it, like it, all that jazz. Share it with anyone that you know that loves horror, fantasy, and science fiction, and leave those reviews. 5 stars will be awesome. But whatever review you leave, we do appreciate that. So until next time.